Hello, pursuers. Welcome to the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. I'm your podcast host, Naz Kazimi. And if you're new here, well, welcome to the Pursuit of Happiness. This is where we break down reality TV, relationships, and real life psychology because honestly, it's never just about the show. And plus, I'm ADHD. And how do we tell people that these reality shows, especially these Bravo crazy ones, really regulate our nervous system? Isn't it crazy that it does? Anyways, I am a little bit behind. I've had kind of a crazy week. My dad has been sick, so sorry, everybody. Hard to really jump on here and do much, but let's start off with the Valley. We're going to do the Valley and Summer House and in the city, okay? Now, starting off with the Valley. Lala told off Danny. We all saw what happened. She was like, you know what? Don't speak to Nia that way. It's triggering for me. And Danny started to mock her and say, she's mistriggered. She's mistriggered. She went back and she's like, Danny, listen, do not speak to me that way. Do not provoke me. Though these are not her exact words. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but she's like, do not provoke me. I'm allowed to say that because, and I think Lala's right. He's not just speaking to Nia in the privacy of just them two for their ears. Everyone's in the house. There's 8, 9 people in this house. So she said she heard him speak, and that was enough for her to say something. And it bothered her. And, maybe some people are okay. For example, and I'm already going off on a tangent, but it's not a tangent. It's kind of relative to what we're saying. I have really high energy when I speak. I'm high energy. I'm animated. I'm expressive. So sometimes when I meet people that don't necessarily match my energy, it's a little bit hard for them to match my energy, they just feel a little bit more intimidated. So they shut down, they quiet down. I think it's up to me to realize okay, maybe some people are not used to or haven't grown up with somebody that's passionate, I want to say aggressive, not aggressive, but, really with the energy that I have. And I need to be mindful of that. I can't just go around and have this loud voice and be talking a certain way and act a certain way when I know that there's people that are around that might not, I don't want to say appreciate it, but might not are used to that type of energy, So it becomes my job. And there's one thing that you've noticed about me from all these times of doing all these podcasts and speaking, I always take accountability on my own. I never sort of say, well, people should match my energy. No, I'm always it's up to me to realize that, and I'm really good at reading energy. It's up to me to realize, and I usually do, I pick up on it quite quickly because it's not received or they're looking at me weird, they're side-eyeing me, that someone might not perceive my energy the way that I do in terms of I'm happy about, they might see it as aggression or anger or it's too loud. It's part of my culture as well. We're Persian. We speak with our hands. We're expressive. So now another thing, and again, see, I told you I'd go off on a tangent. The difference is I'm also not drinking. I am sober, but that's besides the point. The point is that I'm much more self-aware because I'm not, influenced by something that might change my mindset, I'm not saying that he's a drunk. I do think that he has a problem with alcohol. I do, and I say that out loud. But I'm just in this instant not saying that he's drunk. I'm saying he's drank and he's got alcohol in his system. And that amount that he has, it's making him less aware of the people around him and just laser focused on whatever he thinks that he's doing. He's saying that he was in the moment, in character. Okay? Regardless, there's other people there as well. That was kind of what my tangent was saying. He's not reading the room and realizing, okay, the way that I'm speaking, maybe Nia's used to it. Or maybe Nia knows, okay, this is the way he is when he drinks. But now that other people are involved in hearing him speak this way, they're allowed to pipe up and say, hey, don't. And I have lots of examples. Same when you're on a subway. I know it's a public space or we have sky trains and there's signs everywhere. Please, not everyone wants to hear your conversations. Now, will there still be people that converse and speak really loudly? Of course. Can you tell them, hey, you're speaking a little bit too loud? Can you please, shut it down? Of course. Will they get offended? You don't know. You don't know how that other person is going to react. But because it's a public space, everyone has their headphones in. It's not a big group of people conversing. But isn't that so annoying? We all pick up on their conversation. We don't want to hear where you live, who your boyfriend is, what happened with your mom at dinner. Like, not that we don't care about people, but it doesn't mean anything to us. We just had a long day at work. We're going somewhere. We're thinking about other things. It's just that one person that speaks excessively loud is just completely unaware that other people maybe don't want to hear it. And I feel like that's like Danny in that situation. Like, okay, we get it that this is your guys' relationship, but if other people are hearing and they're sleeping under the same roof and you guys supposedly are friends, I think that they're allowed to say, yo, okay, if that's the way that you guys talk to each other, cool. But like, I don't like it. Like, it's starting to make me feel uncomfortable. I think maybe where Lala crossed the line just a little bit, although I think that it's great that she spoke up, is to be like, I don't like the way that you're speaking to your wife. I think that if she rolled it in with like, I don't like the way that you're speaking to your wife, and I also don't like the way that you're speaking in general, it's making me feel very uncomfortable. Which she did say, but then when she came back around, she kind of brought it back to Nia. And I think that's why Nia says it's none of your business, because it's like you're speaking for her, And maybe she did need someone to speak for her. But I think that like for Danny to receive it, it has to come from you. For us to say, Danny, your wife doesn't like the way that you speak to her, he's going to be like, oh yeah, how do you know? You're not her. You didn't marry her. You didn't put a ring on her finger. That's my wife. You know what I mean? So, it's a very, we could go back and forth. We could bounce this ball back and forth all day because people are going to have different opinions. I think another thing for Lala is, and I've heard allegedly that she's been in a very abusive relationship. She hasn't come out and said that it was physically abusive, but I think that there was some, I believe, Kazemi believe there was physical abuse. There are some parts of her life with Randall that she will never speak about, and that's her thing. But let me tell you something. I have also been in my father was really abusive domestically to my mom. My mom was very emotionally and mentally abusive and verbally abusive. I've been with boyfriends that my picker is just off because I pick these type of guys. When someone starts to raise their voice on me, I automatically get into this kind of like beef mode, like I'm starting beef. I don't like it. It triggers me. And I think that I feel like with Lala, it does the same thing to her. It heightens her. And she starts getting like, okay, so you're raising your voice, now I get to raise mine. I have a friend, and me and her can sit there and we can like talk through our problems, and we can kind of like really go through our issues. And I feel so safe with her that I can get upset, but that we can resolve it. But when people start to speak to me in a way that is like condescending or loud, I start to get loud because I'm like, okay, this is going to be a situation where I'm not going to be hurt unless I raise my voice as well. And those spaces are really unsafe for me. So again, let's circle back and bring this all back to the valley. I understand why Lala would be triggered. And Danny, he's just not in the right state of mind to realize that, he's speaking so fucking loud and everyone can hear. They do the drag show, male pageant. I don't know why they just won't call it drag. I think it could be a religious thing. Even though Nia and Danny hang out with Zach, who's gay, it could just be that drag kind of insinuates something negative in their religion, so they don't call it drag. But it is a drag show. It's funny. Everyone was funny. Danny was kind of acting gross. He was acting slimy. And I'm a millennial, so I'm going to use my millennial words. He was acting slimy. But Luke won. It was funny. It was fun to see. We already had it on Vanderpump Rules, so it was great to see. Danny's showing off his nuts because he's drunk. It's just disgusting. Janet nailed it. Janet didn't nail it with the words that she used, with the essay and all that, no. But Janet did nail it last season when she said that he gets drunk and he gets inappropriate. And that would be the right verbiage to use. Drunk and inappropriate. Again, it's not the words that she used last season, but it's 1,000% correct. He's being so inappropriate. You can tell that he's drunk. Everyone on the planet can confirm it. So after the pageant is done and everyone wins, Nia sits down with Danny, and Danny is still making excuses. He says Lala is comparing him to her ex, so Randall, because she went through that with her ex, and how dare she compare him to Randall. Nia brings him back to reality, like to the conversation, and says, "But this isn't about Lala. This is about me." And I think she's right. This isn't about Lala. This is about her. Danny's making it seem like, oh well, she said this as she was triggered, but she's triggered because she's comparing me to Randall. How dare she? Nia's like, no, that's not at all what's happening. Lala came and spoke to you because of the way that you were speaking to me. And I want to address what just happened. Now they have their conversation. They go back in. They joke around with Zach a bit. And then Danny grabs a beer. And you can see like he's side-eyeing the camera right away to see if like, okay, is the camera going to catch this? Then Nia comes in, and I believe this is the part where she tells him, hey, listen, thank you for kind of like, bringing a more positive attitude. And he just kind of is going off. She wants to help him take his makeup off, and he starts saying things like, you're so stupid. Jesus fucking Christ. Why would you say that shit to me? I would never say shit like that to you. Nia kept having to remind him that he's mic'd, and that once they leave, he's asking her that if she's mic'd. And that she needs to take her mic off and that the camera's still following him. And then he literally death stares the camera. Now, if this isn't the behavior of someone that's hiding something, like why is it so important that the camera's following you? Why is it so important that they're mic'd? You're supposed to be on reality TV and pretend like that doesn't exist. Who cares, Danny? There's definitely something that's coming to the surface, and it's something that they're both hiding. Danny may not be a physically abusive person, but I think he gets verbally abusive when he drinks, especially. And you know what? And this is why I don't like to record the podcast right away. I just like to see kind of like the opinions of other people, and then it just gives me more to talk about because I really like to break it down. You are allowed to speak however you want in any type of relationship. If you and your man, or if you and your wife or your partner have a relationship where you're constantly yelling at each other, and that's good for you guys because that's just the way that you speak, that's great. Let that be your thing. But if you decide to do a reality TV show and people start questioning your style of communication, be ready to explain that to the public. Don't be trying to hide it and then be one way when the cameras are up, but then be another way, or be your authentic selves when the cameras go down. Because it just takes 1 minute to forget that they're there. It's just like, this is going to be such a weird example, but just hear me out here. It's like drug dealers. Like drug dealers do so well. Like the big, you watch Scarface or American Gangster, they do so good when they're managing everything on their own. It takes one little careless mistake. For Scarface, it was Al Pacino in Scarface? Forgot his name in it, but he started to get sloppy because he started doing the drugs. He fell in love. So now you start slipping and the cracks are starting to show. And now people are able to tell, okay, that's the guy that's doing it. Same thing in American Gangster. Denzel. He was having a good time. He got a little too comfortable. He went to the boxing match, with his fur jacket when he was just giving his cousin shit for not wearing anything fancy because it's like, it says drug dealer, it says arrest me or whatever. It's attention seeking. And that one slip of the outfit yes, they're drug dealers. They make money. They move tons of weight. They want to sit as close to the box. They want good seats. This is why they work so hard, I guess, so to speak, in their realm of work. And they do something so illegal because they want to be able to enjoy those things. But once you start to get too comfortable, the cracks are exposed. And I know, such a crazy example. If you've listened to any of my other podcasts, you know my history in my 20s when I was an adult entertainment and drug dealer. So that's why I'm able to kind of reference it. But Same thing with if you go on reality TV and there's cracks to begin with in a marriage. Let's talk Rula and Brian. Or in your financial situation. And I know Teresa didn't mean for anything to come out about her because she didn't know, but Teresa Giudice and Joe Giudice. The cameras will heighten it because at first you're very sacred and you're holding everything together and you're making sure that it doesn't get exposed. But all it takes is one little slip where you're a little too comfortable and you say something and you have no power over the editing. And absolutely, absolutely, it's going to be shown because that's the interesting thing that you were trying to hide. Or you've tried to play a certain type of face and then all of a sudden this gets exposed. And of course, the editors, production, they find that type of stuff interesting. That's what they're going to put out there. So I think when it comes to Danny, he really needs to reevaluate, and Nia, they need to really reevaluate their why. Like, why are they on the show? Are they on the show to portray perfection? Because no one wants to see perfection. We don't care. But we want to see communication. And and I want to say this now, and I'll get into it again later because sometimes I forget my points. There's a part where Kristen says, you know what, I really admire how they don't necessarily put each other down or have these really tough conversations in front of anybody. And I'm sure she means the camera. They have it alone and separate, and that's great. But if that's the way you want to handle your problems and your issues, maybe don't be on a reality TV show. Because let me tell you, as viewers, we love to watch conflict and then resolution. Because we want to say, these are not actors, they're not given a script, but this is real life. And if they're going through it, we go through it. How do they deal with it? I want to see what tools they use. Maybe I should use those tools. I want to see how they get through it. Because, I'm going through this with my partner and it's tough. But when you pretend that it doesn't exist and you're sweeping things under the rug, well, the entire world does that. I'm sure 99% of the population does that. We're looking for that 1% that can teach us something, that we can be influenced by, that we can learn something from. And we all know that nothing is perfect. And it's worse when you pretend that it's perfect and then it shows that it's not, but you're still not taking accountability because now you're just a liar. So I just hope that they reflect and are able to be a little bit more honest on camera because they are part of a cast and a reality TV show. And you know what? People will admire them so much more. People won't think they're not the perfect couple anymore. People will be like, you know what? They are still the perfect couple. And if that's the image they want to uphold, because they're able to talk through their issues. They're not embarrassed about bringing it up. They take accountability and they move the fuck on. And I think that's where their why on being reality TV really needs to shift. Now, the next day, Danny apologizes to Lala, and Lala says that she's not judging Danny at all, nor is she there to inherit anyone's beef, and I'm sure she's speaking about Janet because she's pretty close to Janet. But she did not like what she saw and wants to make sure Danny is quote-unquote good. Danny, of course, in front of her face says, yes, he's good, but he didn't like that she asked that. He just continued to apologize to her for calling her triggered. He doesn't seem to want to address the drinking. He thinks that he's apologizing for the after she spoke to him saying that I'm triggered thing. So they're still kind of bypassing the whole drinking issue. You know how sometimes you make a lie like, oh yeah, I'm the richest person in the world, but you're driving like, a Corolla and you don't have millions, you're not a billionaire. You're just well off. You're upper middle class, but you're lying to everyone. You're like, you're a millionaire, and I hang out with Elon Musk, and I see the Kardashians. Everyone knows that you're not. But no one's really gonna burst your bubble. If you want to say this white lie, okay, great. Say the white lie. You're rich, great. You're only actually lying to yourself because everyone around you knows the truth. Everyone around Danny knows. Jasmine said it with Melissa. She even confirmed his actions and behavior. Janet said it. Although Janet, one thing I don't agree with the way Janet said it was just the words that she used. I feel like Janet doesn't bring things to the table from a place of compassion. She was actually mad at them, so the intention was to hurt them. Whereas I feel like the conversation that Lala had with him was really to bring awareness, And she does say that she chose her words carefully, and she is in a program where it's a very delicate subject. No one wants to, if you're not self-aware enough to realize that you have a problem, it's really tough to hear other people say it. Step one is you surrender. And people sometimes don't surrender for anything, Step one for anything is to if you think that you're good at math, but you suck, step one is realizing that you're shitty at math. And now you got to fix it. If you're not getting paid enough for work, And everyone's like, yo, you should be getting paid more. You're not going to think that you need to get paid more until you realize it. Because step one is you realizing that you need to get paid more at work. People are going to say it, but unless you realize it, you probably won't do anything about it. Being overweight, being not at your goal weight, being not as fit as you want. People, you can scroll through social media all day long and people can tell you all these things. But until you realize it for yourself, damn, I need to make a change. Changes won't happen. So I do think that he's definitely bypassing it. He doesn't want to think that he has a problem with alcohol. But the way that it is being portrayed, and it could be because maybe his behavior of hiding things is making it more kind of plausible that there could be a problem, is something that he needs to address. And I'm going to just leave it at that, okay? Now, Janet also has a conversation with Nia, and she tries to apologize to Nia. And Nia wants to continue to see all the bad things that Janet had done. Even though, to be honest, it showed that Nia and do the same thing back to, Nia and Danny do the same thing back to Janet and Jason. It's gone to a point where it's gone so back and forth. Someone needs to stop and be the bigger person. And don't be the bigger person for a day and then you see someone post something bad and then, okay, I'm going to go. If they were able to do that, then I'm going to go do it. No. You guys, one person needs to stop completely and eventually the other couple will follow suit. But to be honest, out of these two couples, Danny and Nia and Jason and Janet, I'm not too sure which one's more mature than the other because they both act pretty immature. Like Nia, as gorgeous and as smart as I want to, okay, she's gorgeous for sure, hands down. But as smart as I want to believe that she is, she does tend to sweep a lot of things under the rug. And I think as a mother of 4, that's a bit dangerous. She should really just be careful with that. And why I say that, let me just clarify because I don't want this to kind of be misinterpreted, but you want to have such an honest and open relationship, but by pretending that there's no problem, sometimes that makes the problem even worse because then that person is now enabled. And I think Nia is Danny's number one enabler. And I don't think that she's getting beat on, but I also don't think that they're at all in a perfect marriage, especially because they sweep things under the rug, especially because they don't talk about anything. We don't want to just see the breastfeeding and you coming to a safari and Danny getting drunk. That's not what we want to see. We want to see the trials and tribulations of couples, especially for a couple with 4 under 4. So, I don't know how I feel about. I already know how I feel about Janet and Jason, and Janet's a little bit more mellow this season so far, so she's likable. And they say that you're only as good as your last episode. I have yet to see any sort of good come out of Danny and Nia, because I know that Nia doesn't do the bad stuff, but she's also still enabling him. She doesn't want to address that anything bad's going on, Yeah. It was just so bad. Like, he was like, his balls were hanging out. He kept trying to show off his crotch. It's like, dude, we don't want to see that, at the night of the pageant. Anyways, moving on. The boys, Luke, Jason, Schwartz, and Jesse go play basketball. Jason pops his knee and he can't get up. The ambulance comes and grabs Jason, and I don't know, there's just something about Jason alone. Like, Jason just by himself, not married to Janet. Well, he's married to Janet, but just Jason, like, when he's not with Janet, that I love about so much. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think he reminds me of my friends in Vancouver. We have a really large Filipino community. And so he just reminds me of, like, some of the boys that I grew up with, just really chill, down to earth. I feel bad that he popped his knee. I'm in fitness. I'm a bodybuilder. That's what my whole thing is about. If you go on my YouTube, you'll see my entire ecosystem. If you follow any of my personal accounts, you'll see I've been bodybuilding for a long time. And so I know that it sucks when you get injured, especially as you get older. So the last really important scene that I want to talk about is when Zach, Brittany, Lala, and Kristen meet up for lunch. I also really love Zach. But if you switched out Zach for Schwartz in the scene, it would be the old VPR crew, which is kind of cool. They're all from Madden Pump Rules. So mine is Zach. You have Brittany, Kristen, and Lala from VPR. So you have some seasoned vets in the scene. Lala starts telling Kristen about her and Danny over the weekend, because apparently Kristen didn't hear about it. Lala says that she appreciates that Kristen rides hard for her friends, but the way that Danny speaks to his wife is unacceptable. And Lala says, listen, I've witnessed it with my own eyes. I have not heard it from anybody. I watched it. I saw it happen. I heard it. Kristen says that she has no idea what Lala is talking about because she's never seen drunk Danny, which is, I call bullshit. That scene at the very end where they're on the cruise and then Janet, made the SA comment, the sexual assault comment, and they were all there. Danny was there drinking. Nia was there. Kristen ran off. Remember, she got pissed. She's like, I'm ending this conversation. And she got pissed and she ran off and she told Danny and Nia what was said. There's been so many scenes that you've been with Danny and he's been drinking, and in my opinion, drunk. They were on the cruise drinking. The dinner that had the flashback where Danny was sleeping, and Brittany got pissed and she's like, "How come I have to be all honest on camera, but other people can't?" They had the flashback. It showed, and Kristen says that she loves how, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that they keep some parts of the relationship and communication private so it won't embarrass their partner. But hiding anything, especially your communication, while on a reality TV show, does not show that you're perfect. Saying, hey, the mic is on, don't talk, there's cameras, you're still wearing a mic. That's not keeping some parts private. It's hiding something. Keeping something private and hiding something are two very separate things. And when you're constantly alluding to the fact that there's the microphone on you, don't talk, there's cameras, you're still wearing a mic, that's hiding something. That's not privacy. So interested to see how the next couple episodes play out. Obviously, other things happen. I don't really want to get into, I don't want to, at the beginning, I would recap verbatim what was going on. I just kind of want to go over, the main kind of psychological issues that are going on. But regardless, it was a better episode. But Valley is still, it's getting me a little bit excited to see how it's going to play out. But it's a slow burn so far for the Valley. Let's get into Summer House. It's the Summer House season finale. How exciting. I just want to say that I've been watching Summer House since the beginning. And there's so many things that I'm seeing online that I have to address. So as we go through it, I will address it. So it's a continuation of the après-ski party. And in the very beginning, it shows that Kyle and Sierra sit down for a chat. Kyle tells Sierra, the après-ski party is the best party yet. And Kyle says that he didn't like the separating from Amanda physically idea that Sierra kind of brought to the table when they were at the beach. And that's what he's still trying to process. And that's sort of where a lot of his anger came from the night before at that dinner. He does apologize to Sierra, but Sierra also says, even seeing that makes it confirmed even more that it's better that you guys kind of have a physical separation, because you were attacking her for no reason. You got mad at your best friend. It's this has to, the anger is just kind of getting passed around rather than being dealt with. And I agree with Sierra. She's really wise in these moments, So they kind of resolved their issue there. Lindsay asks Carl to chat. And part of it is that she says that she's buried a lot of things after their breakup. Yeah, no shit, Lindsay, we can tell. With all the digs and all the sly remarks and even, saying that he won't last long when he has sex to Bailey. Yeah, we can see it. But she also says that seeing Carl's mom brought up a lot of, the stuff that she was sweeping under the rug. And she feels like she still needs to get some closure from Carl. Now, I do Dear Nas episodes where I answer pursuer questions. And one of them was if I can't get the closure that I need, what do I do? And it's what? Sometimes you can't from another person. Sometimes closure doesn't come from another person. It comes directly from us. And I think that we need to learn how to be able to close off a chapter of something within ourselves. Again, remember, I take full accountability, because if we trust other people to help us with that closure, it's never going to come. And sometimes it never does. Sometimes you don't get the closure that you need at all. But you know what? A conversation might help close some doors. And this is now 3 years later. So she's telling Carl that and I always want to say Coral because I watch too much Walking Dead. But anyways, she said that she was uncomfortable about Sharon, Carl's mom, coming up to her and hugging her. I don't think it was bad. I think that, Sharon was just being nice. Like, would it have been better to, like, completely for Sharon to ignore her? Like, I mean, she was engaged to her son. But regardless, I'm proud of Lindsay for coming to Carl and saying that I was expecting a conversation from you at least a few months after our breakup. Because I guess what happened is when Carl, especially on camera, said that I don't want to get married, they kind of broke it off. The day of their wedding, because a lot of people couldn't cancel anymore, it was too late. Sheena and Carl's mom were like dancing away together, on the day of their wedding. But even in that time frame, like, okay, it's been 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, a year, 2 years. She was expecting Carl at some point to call and be like, hey, let's talk about how it went down, because she thought that their friendship went further than just in front of the cameras. Carl literally like disappeared from her. And this makes much more sense in understanding where Lindsay is coming from. And although unnecessary and at times very inappropriate, it makes sense, her behavior. And now I can see her perspective more. Before I didn't really know this and couldn't understand why she's just not over it. Like, get over it. Like, you have a kid now, like, move on from it. But Carl apologized, and I think Lindsay feels better about it, At least, like, he knows. She got to say what she wanted to say. I love that she addressed that she was still hurt by it, like, to this day. We all knew this. We as viewers all knew this. We were just waiting for her to say it, and she finally did. In the press, it seems like they're totally better now because they did, especially after the whole, like, Scamanda thing, like, everyone's kind of hanging out again, and they've had some partnerships and brand deals, so it's nice to see that that friendship becoming stronger. You see pictures of Carl with Gemma. It's nice to see. Anyways, next scene, you do see Wes tell Ben, don't encourage Sabrina to make me and Sierra date when we're together because I'm not wanting a relationship with her. This is where my confusion comes from their relationship. They became friends again, right? But why did Sierra automatically think that them being friends again equals them being able to kiss and whatnot? Can they just not be friends? And maybe it's not a question for Sierra to answer. Maybe it was a Wes kind of thing. Like, because Wes, we see him on camera saying that he doesn't want a relationship. He just wanted to be friends with her again. But she's thinking that it's more than friends. But where does that kind of like mixed signal come from? Like, who's putting that out there? Did Sierra, like, for example, did Sierra think that by being friends with him again, it meant that they're trying to date again? Or did Wes kind of imply, like, yeah, let's kind of, like, see where it goes, but then, like, he's telling other people, like, that's not what I wanted, just to kind of, like, get them to be friends so that the summer doesn't end bad? Like, I don't know. Or there's so much of that I'm missing, 2 years ago, he says that he made the mistake and he slept with her, and he kept it casual. But she likes Wes more than that. So even back then, it was a lot of mixed feelings, which ended up hurting her. And Wes wanted to hook up with her last night after the club, but he tried his hardest not to, so that he's not sending mixed signals. So, but then why does Sierra think that? Okay, so he didn't sleep with her, then why does she think that? But anyways, the next scene is cringe because Amanda tells Mia and Sierra that she's grateful for them and that they say out loud what she's thinking quietly in her head. And that's helpful, and that she's thankful for that. And Amanda explains that her main issue for wanting to leave Kyle is that she feels like or not wanting to leave Kyle, or scared of leaving Kyle, is that she feels like she's not good enough for anybody else. So, she was with him for quite a long time. You can see she's kind of suffering from low self-esteem or self-worth, and it happens to everybody when you've been with somebody for a long time, and now you're sort of anticipating what the next chapter is going to look like. Like, am I ready to be with somebody else? Like, he says she's lazy. She doesn't know how to clean. She does all this. Like, is she even good enough to be with anybody else? Will anybody love her, for her? Or does she have to morph into somebody that she's not? It's not just an Amanda thing. It's every woman that goes through a breakup thing, I've gone through it, and I know a lot of women that have. And I think it's just, you always question your self-worth after, whether it's any type of relationship breakup, because you feel like it's something that you did that could have caused it. And perhaps it could have been, but at the same time, like, it takes two to tango. So it's not all, like, unless you've done something really intentionally bad, there's so many different layers to why things break up. It's just life. But again, we're the hardest on ourselves, right? And so that's where Amanda is. And I do feel bad for her in that moment. Kyle keeps wanting to have a conversation with Amanda, but she keeps avoiding it. Surprise, surprise. She suggests that the whole summer house crew jump into the pool, and they all do. Ben and Sabrina are sitting with West and Sierra, and then, so this is after they jump into the pool, guys. Sorry, I'm just going through it. And then Sierra and West start making out. So West actually didn't listen to his own rules. And if this isn't mixed signals, West, I don't know what is. Okay? So now the next day, they wake up. It's the last day. They have to go home. Sierra's telling Mia that she was with West until 6 a.m. and that they may have made out. And Mia's really not happy with this because she knows what happened last time. And she doesn't trust the situationship between West and Sierra. She knows that Sierra is in it way harder than West is, you know? Now, for some reason, they're all getting ready to leave and everyone's crying, leaving the summer house. I think maybe because of the hardships that they've had, especially with the men this summer. And then you see Kyle crying and you're like, yes, that's definitely why. It was definitely a much more deeper summer for the friends. A lot of the other times it was just a party summer and like really surface level things happen, but this summer was deep. It was like a marriage in question, and then a huge friendship in question, and then other friendships that were fractured, those were in question, you know? I think because Summer House is renewed for another season, but they're also filming in the city, I didn't think that it would be that bad that they were leaving, but then it could be that they're not going to be part of the Summer House anymore. Like that main crew, like Kyle, Lindsay, Amanda are going to be part of the in the city crew. And then the new Summer House crew will be in the Ozarks, and hence why we were hearing in the press and in the news that West is leading the charge with the Ozark Summer House series. So I think that's where maybe the feelings are coming from, but they're just not showing it to us quite yet, you know? They're not telling us that, but because they're freaking emotional leaving, you know? So now everyone's left, and it's just Kyle and Amanda. They're the last ones left. Amanda says that she never wanted to separate from Kyle. When Sierra had mentioned it to her, it was not even an idea that had ever popped into her head. She never thought that she was going to leave Kyle. She knew that they were having issues, but like to separate was not a form of a solution at that point. But when Sierra did mention it to her, she didn't want that at that time, but thinking it over, it may be a good idea just to refresh and get that space and see how things go. So she said that she's going to head to a hotel for a couple of days. Now they're both crying and reminiscing on all the previous good, bad memories that they've had. They started, like, if you've watched it from the beginning, she was his booty call. Like, she would only come there, like, smooch, go home. Like, she wasn't even, like, the first couple seasons, she wasn't even, like, not even a friend of. She was just, like, a guest at the house, you know? And then eventually she kind of became more of a friend, and she would sleep over more on the weekends and sometimes not. And Kyle was still with other women, and then eventually became the girlfriend, and eventually, you know, engaged and then married. So, it's sad to see. It really is. And Amanda says that she's going to leave separately. So there were 2 cars there waiting for them. So this is totally planned, because listen to this next part. Amanda says that she's going to leave separately, and she'll be at a hotel for a few nights. They're both visibly upset, but she gets up and leaves, and there's, again, 2 separate rides for them. So cue in the city, because then it goes right into in the city. So now in the city starts. And as in the city is starting, they're still on the porch of the summer house, and Amanda's driving away alone from the last weekend of summer house. And now it's officially the show in the city. Kind of planned, obviously, if they had the car waiting there for her. But nonetheless, with all the news that's come out recently, we're excited to see it. It's funny how it was season 10 Vanderpump Rules and then season 10 Summer House where there was the scandals. And like they literally both happened in March. Literally, 3 to 4 years apart. So it's interesting. So in the city starts, and I knew they were going to do this. They flash back. So first they start with Amanda leaving. So it's at the end of the Summer House. Then they flash forward to February 2026. I knew it. So they flash forward to February 2026, and this is when they're showing that people, like, they've officially separated, And now there's rumors in the press and in the news and in the bloggers and tabloids that West and Amanda are hanging out a lot together. Like there's blinds about them, is what they call it. So it shows February 2026. There's rumors of West and Amanda, no confirmation yet, but it was confirmed that Amanda and Kyle had split. Now Amanda goes to visit Kyle, and again, not sure if this is when the confirmation was with West and Amanda or it was still the rumors. Like they didn't clarify that because they only said February 2026, and it wasn't confirmed until the end of March. But they are talking, and Kyle is looking back at the season, and Kyle says that he noticed that Amanda was so far checked out looking back at the summer house and questions her faithfulness. Now, she's offended by this. She's crying. I feel really bad for her. I honestly was crying because then Kyle starts crying. She's offended by this because she says that if there's one thing that she didn't do, that was cheat on Kyle. Do you know what? And I actually believe her. I know that they were still married when the West and Amanda thing happened, but at that point they were separated. They knew they wouldn't get back together. She really wanted this to work out. And I believe her because I've watched from the beginning and I'm not a bandwagoner and I know how into Kyle she was. She loved Kyle. They both cried. They're both emotionally hurt and exhausted. They've been together for so long. They've shared so many freaking memories. And now everything is just becoming so real and official with the split. I know this feeling that you're so used to living a certain life and that was together. So it's hard to now start building new habits and routines without each other, As much as you know that it's the healthiest thing for you, it's also the saddest thing. So that's how In the City starts. And then we get into, we meet finally Lindsay's daughter, Gemma. She's so cute. Lindsay's baby daddy, I believe his name was Turner, broke up with her 6 months after she birthed Gemma. She has a nanny, Liz, her best friend of 13 years, Yvonne, who I believe is Chaldean. She also has a mom best friend, Georgina. And Georgina kind of shares with her that her ex also left her while she was pregnant. Her ex left her at 32 weeks pregnant. And she already had a toddler and a dog to take care of at that time too. So she's introduced us to those two friends of hers. Now it shows Lindsay and Amanda going grocery shopping. Amanda tells Lindsay that she was at a hotel for 2 days and finally went back home. Right now her and Kyle are doing couples therapy, but they're constantly fighting right after the therapy. Like it brings up things and they don't talk about it in therapy, or maybe the time runs out. So they continue the fight outside of therapy. And the therapist even said that you guys just hate each other. Like there's love for each other, but like you guys hate each other. So Kyle actually suggested that she should get her own apartment. Okay. Next we kind of zoom in on Andrea and Lexi. Now Andrea I know from Winter House, and I believe he was on Summer House for a season, but we see Andrea and he was with Lexi while he was on Winter House and Summer House. They had a wedding in Italy, and in this wedding Kyle, Lindsay, and Danielle showed up. But there was no Amanda. Not that it makes a big deal. She probably had other things to do. I think they talked about it on the show as well. But yeah, so Andrea and Lexi are still a thing. Then it shows Danielle. Danielle had a very fruitful sex life on a Summer House, and that's to say the least. Okay, she's at the moment dating a guy named Owen, who's Irish, but I just want to say this because I've been hearing it so much in the press. Everyone's saying that in season 4, after Lindsay and Carl broke up, Danielle gave Carl a hand job. Okay. Danielle came on the show through Carl because they had hooked up already. And then Carl at this time and Lindsay they just hooked up like casually. And then after they stopped hooking up and Lindsay was with somebody else at that point, then Danielle and Carl started hooking back up. So it's nothing new. But for people that haven't really watched Summer House from the beginning and don't know these timelines, are going to think that Danielle is a friend that did the same thing to Lindsay as Amanda did to Sierra. No, it's not like that. Danielle slept with a lot of people, as did Lindsay. And I'm not slut shaming her. I'm just saying she had a very, eventful sexual life on Summer House. And she came on through Carl because she had already hooked up with Carl. Just like how Sierra came on with Luke because she hooked up with Luke. Nothing bad, but, they all, that was that girl and they brought it on. We also meet Kenny, who's Kyle's friend and a venture capitalist. He's also invested in Kyle's business. He's dating a girl from The Bachelor. Her name is Whitney, and she's moved from Minnesota to be with Kenny. We meet Gavin. Gavin owns the bar called the Garret, which is kind of cool. You have to walk through the Five Guys restaurant to get there, but he owns the Garret, and they're all meeting up to have drinks. Amanda and Kyle had therapy right before, and Kyle showed up to therapy after partying late at night and staying out until 4 a.m, DJing. Amanda's crying. She's like, "You're not even taking this seriously. Like, at least the night before that we have therapy, you could have just came home a little bit earlier. Okay, yeah, go do your job, but come home earlier instead of staying out and partying." I do feel bad for her. She's crying. She's like, "I'm doing whatever I can." I believe her. I believe she is, because just the energy and the exhaustion from just trying, I could just see it in her. She definitely tried in this relationship. I'm not saying Kyle didn't. I'm just speaking of Amanda in this moment because she's the one that's upset, and I can tell that she did. So she doesn't go and meet up with them for the drinks. But, Paige and Hannah did once say, Paige and Hannah from Giggly Squad, that once a girl moves on, she moves on. So I know in this moment she's trying her hardest. She really tried. I can see it. But unfortunately, once she moved on, she was gone. Forever. It just sucks that she betrayed her best friend Sierra, but I'm happy she got away from Kyle because they just weren't for each other. Like, I'm happy that Kyle gets to move on. I'm happy that Amanda gets to move on. Not happy with Amanda's choice at all, but just happy that they're figuring themselves out. Maybe they have to go through these mistakes to figure themselves out, So anyways, they're all at the Garret and they're having drinks, and it seems like Lindsay and Danielle haven't spoken in a long time. So Danielle shows up with Owen, and she doesn't say hi to Lindsay initially, but then while Kyle and Lindsay are having a conversation, she goes up to them and she's like, "Hey, how are you guys?" And Kyle said hi to Owen already, so they're all friends. But Danielle tries to ask Lindsay, "Can we go out for coffee or lunch and just chat?" And she's like, "Let me get back to you. Can I think about it?" So in Lindsay's perspective, and again, we've watched this happen, so I know that the whole Danielle and Carl hooking up is not really what's bothering Lindsay, because Carl and Danielle had already hooked up a long time ago, many times. But when Lindsay got pregnant, so first Lindsay and Carl started dating and no one told Danielle. And I think Danielle became a friend of this season because she just had a lot going on personally. And that was the first thing. And Danielle kind of made it all about her. Like, how come I wasn't included in this? Carl proposed to Lindsay and Danielle got pissed. How come I wasn't included? Like, how come you didn't use me to help you out? She kind of made it about her because she felt like she was so close to Lindsay. And they were best friends. And she was best friends with Carl too. Then when they broke up, it was kind of like she got that satisfaction. But then next thing you know, Lindsay's pregnant with Gemma. And now Danielle's like, "Okay, you don't even live with Turner, so are you going to be a single mama?" And when they showed the flashback, I remembered, I don't think that it was that negative what Danielle had said to Lindsay. It's like, "I don't want you to be a single mom." But I guess to Lindsay, and I'm not going to take away how Lindsay felt, she just felt like Danielle wasn't being really supportive. Instead of questioning her, "What? So you're not going to be with the dad?" It could have been "You know what? Don't worry," especially as a best friend. "I'm here for you. You have friends here. If it doesn't work out, or if you guys don't move in, whatever." And, if someone, let me just say this. If one of my friends said, "Hey, I'm with, I got pregnant, but we still haven't moved in together. We need our own, kind of space." I'd be like, "You know what? That's even better." Remember when Hannah first started dating Des? They had their own apartments. And sometimes, you know what? How about Carrie and freaking Big? Sometimes you just need your own place to go and cry it out or just have a girls' night. And, men have those, the man caves. Women can have their little fox dens, but it's doesn't have to be at the house. It can still be their own apartment, So anyways, that happens. And then the very, very last scene is Lindsay, Georgina, Yvonne, and Amanda go out for drinks. And Amanda had just come back from therapy. She's like, "I don't really want to talk about therapy, guys. You all know what I'm going through. Let's talk about everybody else." And they kind of fill her in on Danielle showing up for drinks. And then that's when that's when Amanda says, "Okay, well, I've been hearing that she's, dating a guy that's still married." And I'm like, well, that didn't age well because she was still married when she was with Wes, although they were separated. So maybe, before judging, maybe Owen is in that situation as well. But they were definitely, a conversation was had about Danielle's situation. And I'm like, how ironic coming from Amanda. Although at that time, I don't think that it had happened yet. Because remember, like, it flashed forward first and then it flashed back to, like, like September, October time. So, yeah, some things just don't age well, And, like, before you throw stones, make sure that you're not, throwing it from a house built of glass, because that's just funny, the pot calling the kettle black, so to speak. So, yeah. It's interesting. The first couple episodes of any kind of new franchise or show is to kind of just introduce us to the cast. In a way, it felt a little bit like a new gen NYC, because it's New York. But I love New York. I've just kind of been fascinated with New York lately, so I love that it's another show in New York. Like, for example, knowing about the Garrett, that's kind of cool. Like, now you know all these places and where they are. I love LA, and I'm a West Coast girl, but, like, I'm from Vancouver, so it's like the LA of Canada, but it's kind of nice to see stuff from the East Coast, and more of it, too. It's just a little bit more fast-paced, and it's equivalent to our Toronto, right? So, anyways, I'm excited for the reunion. I know this is so late. Again, I don't like to put out the episodes right after it's aired. I know I wait a couple of days and I wait kind of to just hear what's going on online. And it just gives me a little bit more to talk about and kind of gives me a little bit more perspective. I kind of want to come on here and not be so judgy, but with perspective. But it's so fun to go over these shows, So with that being said, pursuers, thank you so much for listening. Please, if you haven't yet, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple. You can find all my socials in the show notes. Please follow us on the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. We are on Threads. We are on X. We are on TikTok. Instagram is the best. Instagram and Facebook are the best ones. Lots of engagement, lots of chat. I like to kind of intermingle my own podcast clips with some clips that I find that can verify, like, things that, like, people have contradicted themselves, or just really iconic housewives, reality TV show clips. Thank you for listening, pursuers. We are going to do Atlanta and Rhode Island next. With that being said, have a great night, and I will chat with you guys soon.